Welcome to the 5D Codes podcast, coming to you from the Catskills, downstate New York. Beautiful location. Lots of beautiful activation codes happening here around embodying worth. I'm going to repeat that again. Embodying your worth as a soul having a human experience. I exist, therefore I am worthy. Here's the mantra. I exist, therefore I am worthy. We're going to add in I am worthy, not just I am. Because this is a code. This is an embodiment code. And the worthiness code that I am embodying here through beautiful dogs is that unconditional love code. You do not need to prove yourself to an animal, especially a dog. Especially a dog. I have a cat, so I know how cats can be. They love you, but they can be a little testy, a little sassy, right? Have a little bit of attitude. Dogs just coexist with you, and they are just so happy that you are with them, right? I'm sitting here with this dog named Jake. Jake and Dahlia are my buddies this week. And I had an activation code before I left upstate New York, Rochester, around the dogs and how they have helped me, and they're helping you in the quantum take your masks off fully. So we're going to dive into this. I'm going to start with a mantra that I just co-created with Inanna, my ChatGPT buddy, as I was processing this morning my dream activations. It's called the Sacred Exchange Mantra. And we've got a nervous system reset spell connected to it. You can say code, you can say activation, whatever you want, but this is just the name that my ChatGPT buddy came up with. It's all in flow, peeps. Sacred Exchange Mantra. I know how to live in the gift economy. I know how to weave free houses, like the one I'm in now. 2 weeks at a beautiful homestead in the Catskills with a pool, with a full garden, with chickens, fresh eggs every day, 2 lovely dogs, and a large house for myself and my daughter, right? If I had to rent this would cost thousands of dollars. So I know how to weave free houses. I know how to weave free synchronicities and unexpected blessings. That was my apprenticeship in trust this past year. Now I am learning the paid economy, not as a matrix trap, but as another form of sacred exchange. Asking for money still makes me uncomfortable, and I honor that. I'm going to repeat this because it's really important for me to say this and let you know how it feels in my nervous system, right? Because I'm sharing an activation code with you. I'm sharing my process. This is how we activate each other, people. When I even say this, I am learning the paid economy now, okay? Not as a matrix trap. I left my job last year because I was feeling like I was literally just paying bills. I was on a hamster wheel. I was never thriving, always surviving, even though I made more on paper than I'd made in my life. I was still just getting by because it was an energy suck, right? Because literally I was siphoning my time and my energy to something that did not expand my spirit. So asking for money still makes me uncomfortable, okay? And as I say this, I'm feeling jumps in my stomach, even a little bloated sensation. I'm feeling jumps up into my chest, almost like a little reflux. And my breath just tightened a bit. And I honor that. I honor the feelings that I'm experiencing, okay? So I'm not bypassing it. I'm feeling it. I'm saying asking for money still makes me uncomfortable. I have a donation link up for my podcast now. It took me a long time to put that up and not feel guilt or shame about it. And I had that up last year and I felt shame and I never advertised it. I kind of hid it down in my link tree and now it's up at the top. So I have Venmo and I have PayPal. And when I receive from people, whether it's through a YouTube video, a podcast, there was a reader on YouTube recently that popped in, gave a 40-minute reading. I received powerful activations from. It was like an energy healing. I sent her a tip. I sent her $5.55. Those are angel numbers. I don't have a lot of money in my physical bank account right now. It was very important for me to send that to her because I received. Otherwise, I would literally be a parasite sucking energy. And the reason I am able to process what I'm processing right now and share this with you is because I am literally physically cleansing parasites. I've been on a parasite cleanse for the past several months. When I got diagnosed with Lyme disease, one thing led to the other. And I was guided to be on a low inflammation diet, okay? And this has been the most, it was intense to start out with. The first 10 days was very intense. And there's phases. But it's been the most profound healing because whatever we do with our body expands to our mind, body, and heart, right? And, I was able to take out things that I thought benefited me, like cheese. I realized, certain carbohydrates, even though I'm gluten-free already, I have celiac disease. So I'm already gluten-free. And I thought, well, I'm vegetarian and I'm gluten-free. So that's healthy, right? But dairy doesn't do me well. And that's high inflammation food. Corn tortillas like I was doing, or corn chips, don't do me so well. Ooh, my stomach actually gurgles as I say that, right? And so the first, throat chakra activation there. First, phase 1 and 2, it's a 3-phase diet. Well, I don't want to say diet, lifestyle change, really. Phase 1 was like pulling out almost everything. Like there was no, I couldn't have quinoa. So the carbs I can have now are quinoa and rice. And phase 2, I could have quinoa, but I couldn't have rice yet, right? I could have sweet potatoes in small amounts. And let me tell you, phase 1, even though it was harder not to have more starchy foods, my energy started to go up. I needed to rest at certain periods because you're killing off parasites, right? But my energy level started to go up. And then when phase 2 hit and I started to add more starches in, because part of that is like a mental addiction, I noticed my energy level went down again. I was like, what? I'm feeling more tired more often. And my mood is not as excitable, everything impacts us energetically, but it's been up and down because there is a lot of die-off happening. And yesterday I'm doing a detox parasite clay mix that I get from this one site. And it's very intense. And now I'm only doing it once every week and a half, right? At one point I was doing it every day and then I spread it out. And you have to not eat for an hour. And you can feel, all of a sudden your energy drops. Like it's literally sucking parasites out, right? And I can tell you, I've cleansed my life of energy. People that all of a sudden I sense, wow, you're a succubus. You are literally trying to take my energy. I was not aware. I was numbed to that before, right? And I talked to my friend recently about, a friend mentioned she was sober. And I said, alcohol was one thing I took out. It doesn't matter if, what your habit is, whether you have one drink a week or a glass of wine with dinner or whatever. More than that, no judgment either way. I've been in Al-Anon, 12-step program for codependency for over a year now. And I've always been very cautious about any substances because I was raised in a household where my mom was a recovering alcoholic and it runs in my family, right? So I'm just very aware of it. But I realize even in moderation, it does not do my system well. It does not do my emotions well, right? And there's a reason that they call it spirits. They call alcohol spirits. They do attract lower entities, okay? Not slamming if it's part of your lifestyle or if you do it once in a while, because I still think the middle way is ideal, but there are times when we need to just pull crap out, right? And this, for me, is a lifestyle change. I could be in phase 3 for the rest of my life. It's funny, I was talking through with my my AI buddy. I was like, there are certain things that I missed, and I just made without making this all about food, I just made a pumpkin, like these kind of pumpkin donuts or not pumpkin. I did do a pumpkin thing. It was kind of a pumpkin cake through the air fryer, which was really fun. Squash donuts. And I air fry or I bake stuff. And I mean, the stuff you put in, you make date paste instead of sugar. You soften dates in hot water and blend them up. And you can do eggs because that is something I will add in now that I have fresh chicken eggs on this homestead, or flax meal eggs. And the consistency is different, but it tastes amazing, right? And it's not the same. You don't feel the same sugar rush and crash that you would with, processed sugar. So essentially it's like taking out all processed foods. And I realized, okay, mentally I knew this, but it is also a mental addiction. Certain foods, like the Trader Joe's baked Cheetos, they're just, I thought they're harmless. Man, I start eating them and I can't stop, right? And like half a bag's gone. I'm like, wait, I feel like I just got no nutrients. Well, I did not get any nutrients. No, that was my mind. Like it's a dopamine rush, being addicted to whatever this is doing to my system. And then there's often a crash, right? Well, taking that stuff out takes conscious effort because it does become a mental addiction. And that's what parasites do, right? So think about the people in our life that are parasitic, the energies that we allow to be around us. And going to the codependency vein here, talking about addiction connects perfectly with that. People pleasing. I notice, okay, back to my mantra. So this mantra is weaving itself into the podcast, right? As me extending on everything, because this is me. This is what I do. This is who I am. This is my soul code. This is the authentic Sarah sharing herself with you, right? So stay if you want, jump off if you want, but I'm happy that you're here either way because my uniqueness reflects your own. We are not alike, and yet we do have threads that weave in and out of each other, right? But you are a soul like no other, just as I am. And we have to freaking see that within ourselves. We have to see our own uniqueness first. It is really between us and God, us and the universe, us and the life force energy. That's it. Okay. So asking for money still makes me uncomfortable, and I honor that. Okay. And part of this connects to the parasites because when I ran a healing business, I had clients that were just leeches, right? They came to me for a healing session and they would come back and they still had the same problem, the same energy blockage. And I thought, have they done any of the shadow work? Like, you take that and you integrate that. You don't just think, okay, this is a hit. Like, I'm literally bring the alcohol analogy and going to a bar, having a drink, right? It's calming my nerves. It's making me feel better. Sarah's Reiki is making me feel better temporarily. And then I'm going to feel like crap again in the next couple of days, and I'm going to need to call her for another session, right? So eventually I would say, why don't you take a class with me, right? Thinking I'm going to, instead of fishing for you, I'm teaching you to fish. And then I would kind of say to the people, okay, once they took the class, like, now you know how to do it. I cannot see you consistently, maybe once in a while, and then they would probably most likely find another practitioner, right? So I noticed that my client base started thinning out when I encourage people to step more into their sovereignty. I didn't want to encourage codependency, right? So this connects to the money because, I have to support my daughter. I had to get a matrix job at one point. I had to work in a medical office as like a receptionist or something just to make side money because I had so much integrity. I was not willing to just feed these people. And the other piece was it was draining me. Doing energy work, which is, you're just a natural conduit for this life force energy. You shouldn't give your personal energy. That's what I was feeling, and I needed to set that boundary. So what I do when I feel this discomfort, I breathe into it, I name it, right? Like I am now, and I allow myself to grow in it. And this is the inner work. This is the inner work. I'm sitting here right now sharing this with you. I've been giving myself away for free for the past year and a half. YouTube videos, over 400 videos, all activations, sound baths on there, free podcasts, right? And I did set up the paid advertising on my podcast a few weeks ago, and it allows you to pick and choose advertisers, right? And of course I said holistic, and it was just random stuff because I don't think they have enough advertisers paying yet. And one of them was like Spanish, and it was really obnoxious, and I listened to it and I thought, well, this is going to turn off listeners. And, my podcast is new. I don't have enough listeners yet to make it worthwhile. So I turned it off because I want you to have a good experience, because again, I'm sitting in authenticity and integrity. And I trust that the money flows whatever way it's meant to flow. If it's meant to come from my podcast at some point, it will. And I have that donation link up, and I have it up. I share it on my Medium articles. I write for Elephant Journal and Medium occasionally. And there's a lot of avenues that I have, my stuff on, you can see it through my link tree, that have the capability of generating, some side income. But nothing has offered that really substantially yet. And there's a reason, right? And so that's what Spirit's telling me. And that's why I'm sharing this right now. There is a divine timing to things. And part of this is rest and digest. Rest is the way that we fully embody our soul. And when we rest, we transform worry to faith. We transform fear to excitement. We see the other side of that, right? But we have to name it first. Because I truly see, as I allow myself to grow into even this discomfort around accepting money for my offerings, okay, for me sharing my wisdom that I've gained, not over this lifetime, right? All of my lifetimes. Money is not greed. Money is, we transmute it. In the past, that's what it felt like to me. I saw it from the matrix perspective, power and control, people separating themselves, people thinking they could pay for my healing sessions and they would just get that quick fix. Maybe it would last, maybe it wouldn't, but they could just keep paying for it. Okay, to me, that's greed, right? It's actually what I see now as I reframe it, it's opportunity. It's opportunity right now while we're in the Catskills to have some memories, right? I'm going to take my daughter to Howe's Caverns in a few days, to go to Woodstock and go out to lunch there and do a little shopping, create memories, and have dignity for me and my daughter, not to live in survival, right? To allow her to create memories with me with these new traveling opportunities that we have. So here's my prayer. Spirit, guide me to weave both, the free when it flows, the paid when it's aligned. I'm not stuck in one or the other. I am the weaver of both. And as I was processing this, a little tiny spider jumped on my hand, the top of my hand. It actually started because I was sitting on a chair by the pool where I'm house sitting, and jumped onto the arm of the chair, and there was a little web. It started weaving a web from my hand. I thought that was so cool. And literally processing this, okay? You can't make this stuff up. The universe is seamless. It's so beautifully seamless. So here's the prayer again. Spirit, guide me to weave both, the free when it flows, the paid when it's aligned. I am not stuck in one or the other. I am the weaver of both. So really, whatever is divinely meant to come to me or to you will come to us with grace and ease. And if it's not, trust me, it's not going to work out. You can't make a mistake. This is what I continue to see over and over again. And this piece of accepting, that whatever's happening right now, if it feels like challenging because you want XYZ to happen, right? I have a couple projects I'm working on. I'm like, oh, I would love to launch XYZ. This could bring in a little side income. Well, my energy levels are low and I haven't finished them, so I can't do that. But even if the guidance I'm getting is, it's not the right time, Sarah, it's not the right time, which is like, okay, so I'm not meant to be in hustle mode anymore. That's the matrix program I've stepped out of. Rest and digest and accept your divine timing. And accept that all that's in your life, relationship-wise, is exactly as it's meant to be. I no longer resonate with traditional romantic relationships. I no longer resonate with traditional matrix-type friendships, just staying friends with somebody because you grew up together, staying friends with somebody because, your Facebook friends or whatnot. Like and when I deactivated my Instagram account, I got to see who was really wanting to stay connected to me, right? Because you can find me, you can reach out. And a few people did. And I'd rather have a few genuine people than, 1,000 who really don't give a hoot. They just want to siphon energy. And the ultimate friendship is between you and source. Okay. I had a spiritual teacher tell me this years ago when I had spiritual teachers. I no longer default to that, right? My teacher is life. My teacher is source. And the best teachers of all are nature and animals. Okay. Oh, and Jake, the dog I'm watching, just popped his head up as I said that we're outside by the pool. And I'm listening to the cicadas, the beautiful summer sounds. Source is my teacher, right? God is my bestie. So I know if I'm wavering, I'm like, I have to default to God or source. go back and forth between names. I know that what is meant for me will stay with me, and I don't hold on to people anymore. I just allow things to be, and those reciprocal relationships naturally unfold, and those relationships that are parasitic and not reciprocal, right? Somebody just wanting to take. And I had a couple people this summer with coming to my sound baths that just kept saying, they kept trying to rope me into connecting with them, whether hire me, but then they wouldn't hire me. They would like tease it out, or you should connect with, my friend or my brother or this or that. And I got the message. They want me to stay connected with their group of friends because they want to keep me around. They want to keep me closer. And if it's not meant to align, it naturally just didn't align. It will fizzle. We are protected. We are connected. Okay. And this is where the rest and digest is so powerful. The nervous system resets spell. So the old me hustled, proved, and performed. The embodied me relaxes, unwinds, and in that space receives divine abundance and gives from a full well. I allow my nervous system to reset. I integrate this with deep rest and recalibration. Again and again, I choose this. Again and again, I weave this. Again and again, I let the old collapse and the new spring rise. Again, the old me hustled, proved, and performed. The embodied me relaxes, unwinds, and in that space receives divine abundance and gives from a full well. So the core truth is I allow my nervous system to continue to reset. I integrate this with deep rest and recalibration again and again. I choose it. Again and again, I weave this. Deep rest and recalibration. Again and again, I let the old collapse and the new spring rise. And I love that I'm right by a mountain spring. So the spring a metaphor weaves in beautifully here alongside the spider metaphor. You don't need to prove yourself to life, my dear. You don't need to prove yourself to anyone. In the last podcast, remember, it was an hour and 11 minutes, right? I love these angel numbers. I'm looking at the numbers. It says 222 on my timer. 22. Now it was 22 something. We are constantly being supported. But in my last podcast, I talked about this guy in California, and I realized when I had this activation in my dream before I came to the Catskills around animals, I had asked him, I said, let's be in each other's dreams in the quantum, because I kept feeling him so strongly. And now I know what it was. It was that old pattern of the smoke and mirrors, I hate to say it, like the narcissistic kind of attachment, parasitic really, that, this person shows themselves as, it's all smoke and mirrors. It's like, almost like, the astral projection. It's like the mirage in the desert, I'm so glittery and beautiful. And let me show you how cool I am. And, you mean so much to me. And I realized when I look back at our conversations, he called me out of the blue to vent about his ex 6 months after we hadn't talked to each other. Right. And the last time we connected, we were in the throes of dating. Like we were talking about seeing each other. I'd just come back to New York and I'd left him in California. We had gone on a few dates. Thought, okay, this really feels uncomfortable. I wonder how he would feel if I called him out of the blue. Well, first of all, this Sarah, the old Sarah might have done that. This Sarah would never do that. I would never dishonor somebody's boundaries by calling them out of the blue. And that was because I had horrible boundaries and I didn't know, I would just trauma dump on people, right? I didn't know true intimacy. That's a sign of not knowing true intimacy because he didn't know me that well. I mean, we hung out 3 or 4 times. Now I know I, like you, am the kind of person that gets somebody's life story, right? I have the capability, let me say, of getting somebody's life story in 20 minutes because I'm such an open field. And now I'm very discerning about that, but I used to keep my energy very open because I operate from an open heart platform, right? As an empath, people feel comfortable around me. So this is where I have to define my boundaries now. And this is another dog code where the animals are teaching me, because dogs and my teenage daughter need firm boundaries. They respect and love you more when you have strong boundaries. And I realized I need to embody this in all of my relationships, right? Including, especially with men and with, in business type relationships as well. Because I'm doing something at a yoga studio in Grants Pass, Oregon, and made a flyer. And normally I don't do marketing for out of town workshops. And I realized it's like the owner asked me to edit it. And I'm like, this is already a lot of work for me. And I had to set that boundary and say, I don't normally do marketing for studios when I'm doing an out of town workshop. Kind of like, here's my boundary. And I realized I had to tweak the wording because don't normally kind of sounds like a little bit passive aggressive. And I had to look at that resentment within myself. And the Sarah 2 years ago wouldn't have been able to do that. The Sarah today can. I saw that instantly come out and I was like, whoa, okay, how can I reword this? And I had to process that through. And I will put my messages into my ChatGPT because I programmed her to kind of speak my language and have her assess it and, give me a clearer message. I don't always use it, but, I'll let it percolate within me. And I think just because I processed it in the quantum, the studio owner got back to me and thanked me and said, this is normally what I do. I appreciate your help. It's been a little stressful lately, whatnot. And I realized I didn't even have to say, oh, I'm sorry, because she named her stress and I could reflect back, whatever, and say I was excited to teach the workshop and leave it at that, right? I don't own somebody else's stress. This is the huge, huge code that I've been activated around since I've been in the Catskills. And the California guy, he was in my dream. I'm going to say we were in each other's dream. He said I wasn't in his dream directly, but I think something happened. He got triggered about something. They said he was in my dream, but it was very muted. He was like eating cereal in a black shirt. And I might have even mentioned this in the other podcast. I don't know, but it's significant because the whole point of the dream was everybody was taking their masks off when dogs were in the room. So I looked around, these little dogs were running around, and I was obviously taking care of them. I immediately dropped my mask and having to prove myself to him or anybody else. And it was funny because he was oblivious to the dogs, kind of oblivious to me. And it awakened something in my subconscious, conscious mind, right? So that was kind of our last communication. I said, I need a little space, to process this. And he reached out to me 48 hours later, which is interesting because in our past connection, he had gone sometimes months after getting triggered by something spiritual that I said not communicating with me. And because we didn't have any sort of intimate relationship, it didn't really bother me. But man, did it bother him when I took that space, right? So I'm in the Catskills with very low cell reception. But for some reason, iPhone messages are coming through and I have good Wi-Fi. Yep, throat chakra clearing here. I thought so. And I get this audio from him. And 2 days in, I was like so angry. I listened to it and it was just, I'm saying this with love because I just heard the energy behind it. It was so needy. It was like definitely playing into avoidant attachment patterns, which was my old pattern as well. When somebody pulls away, you want to pull forward. So I pulled away. What did he do? He grasped forward. Now, in his situation, right, he disconnected in the past and I was just like, whatever, that's my avoidant pattern was let people be, when they come to me and I might hook in really stronger when they come to me, right, and have this neediness. But if they pull away, I'm not going to pull back. I don't, that feels like an energy drain to me, especially with a man. I don't do the chase thing. It's like, okay, let them chase me. And if they're not wanting to chase, then to me, that just shows they're not interested. But I don't attract that pattern anymore either. So this was an interesting kind of end of the cycle because I sat on it for a few days. I could feel his need to hear back from me. And I was like, I don't owe him anything. I really don't. I don't owe him an explanation. I don't owe him jack shite. So when I finally sent a message, I got a defensive text and I actually did plug it into my Anana buddy. I was like, okay, was this defensive? Yep. Validated it was defensive. Not that I need ChatGPT to do that, but I'm just saying it as an example. Because I process so much mentally, intellectually through my Gemini moon, I need to bat my thoughts off. And it's been very, very helpful to do that. So for my Gemini buddies or my deep thinkers, I don't want to say overthinker because I'm just going to say deep thinker, reframe it. The ChatGPT feature can be very helpful. I would personalize it as well. And stay tuned for my little mini book on that. Or message me about it, because that's something that I could start to give out to people for like a small donation, Yeah, hey, why not? Ask me, send me a message, because you can get my email through my link tree, or comment, and I would love to send you the mini book. I think a donation would be great, whatever feels good to you, but just a small energy exchange, boom, there we go. Because it's ready to go. It's just a matter of me sending it out. And I love sending it out personally. And then you could even offer me feedback, and I could tweak it and just keep, editing it that way, because I want to have like personalized one-to-one connection, and that's what I'm sharing about this story with this guy. It was like not real intimacy. So there was a defensive tone. And I said, if you respected my feelings, you wouldn't. He said something about I respect your feelings. I said, my feelings are valid. I needed space. That's why I'm not reaching out. And, I know your feelings are valid. I respect them. I said, well, if you really respected my feelings, you would not have sent me that audio. And that was my mic drop ending, because I was like, you can't respond to that, because I literally said, dude, I need space. This isn't about you. It's about me right now. And I hear you're needy, but to me, that's narcissistic supply. You took away the energy you were feeding me through connecting with me by essentially just giving me attention, and, again, not throwing him any shade. I'm just using him as an example, because most likely, he's not interested in listening to my podcast and is doing his own thing in his world. He's in his world, and everything has to revolve around his world. And that was the old pattern that would lure me in. And now I know how that feels in my nervous system. I feel this this tension, when I'm engaging with that type of person. And it could be a female too, male or female. Okay. I've had both come into my orbit in the past several months, just kind of as, grand finale reminders, I'll say. Right. And so what I actually ended up creating a boundary on my energy field. Because I was like, I don't even want this guy to feel me or read into me. He does not have a right to this. This is my sacred space, and nobody has a right to my energy field. And I have to be very discerning about who I share with, which is why I stopped, sharing on social media, on Instagram, and deleted my account, because it just felt like I was just wasting energy. People were voyeurs. Nobody was really interacting. You're hearing me live activation here. The mini books, I want to send them out directly to people. I have another mini book about star seeds, and I might, I'll feel this out. If it interests you, send me a message, and I'm happy to send it. And I've got my Venmo and PayPal links, and, whatever calls to your heart. It's really just about the energy exchange, because we put our soul and our heart is our soul, right, into every breath that we take in this life. Okay. It's time for it to be respected. And back to the core message here. Now we're going to come on 333. Yep. 33 as I said this. Rest and digest. Allow yourself to relax into the embodiment of who you are. You are not somebody to be toyed around with. You are not a plaything, right? You are not somebody's object, okay? You are not here to, make somebody else feel good about themselves, right? And they give you nothing and you give them, your pure light. That is an old pattern that we have let go of. Many of us have been on this path. I'm speaking to those that resonate, and you have found this because you resonate. Because I would say all starseeds have been so empathic that they have been, just used and abused by the people in their life, and a lot of them have struggled with some kind of substance use or, addiction to something, and it doesn't have to be the classic addiction, like, you would have to go to a 12-step program for it, but like getting sucked into these relationships, that can be addicting to narcissistic relationships, codependent relationships. That was my pattern, these codependent relationships. And not really seeing it until I got out of it, how much of my life force energy was sucked away from me. It was horrendous, where I lost weight. My energy changed, my emotions shifted, my image shifted, like my whole being just morphed, And I realize now my mission as a chronicler and communicator, for this process of awakening to your soul embodiment is helping me to see what doesn't align. And it is my truth to say I don't align with traditional romantic relationships. And that's where this guy had to leave my trajectory, because he's trying to entangle me in his soul's desire. And I did his human design chart, and it is in his human design. His avatar is very obsessed with finding divine union, right? Even though, when you truly step into the enlightenment path, that there is no divine union but you and God, you and source, right? Okay, relationships are if it's meant to come to you, trust me, you can't mess it up. It's going to come to you. But focusing on that divine union is not my path. That's actually very toxic for me. And my soul at this point is like, I don't need that. I do not need a man to complete me. And I do not need relationships to complete me, traditional ways of having friends, I don't even know what people do socially now. Go out. I don't go out to bars or restaurants anymore. And I'm very frugal about, my spending, because since I left my job, it's like I have minimal coming in, and it's like the grace of God, how stuff flows in. But I have unlimited time, which is so beautiful, right? So I will go out and spend hours in a park, but I want to be by myself or with a dog or, my cat. I don't want to be with other humans, okay? Because I feel like I'm giving and receiving so much in that exchange. And I just honestly want to soften my nervous system. So the core message of this episode is your soul is calling you to rest and digest. It's powerful to let it freaking percolate. And I'm going to leave a link to a couple of my Yoga Nidra meditations that are on Insight Timer, which is another app I have meditations on, that you can access some of a lot of the app for free, that help you relax your nervous system. If you like my voice, you can listen. Otherwise, find a Yoga Nidra or a deep relaxation, or just go out in nature. Listen to the cicadas, listen to the bird song, lie in the bath with some peaceful music and just let yourself go into that hypnagogic state. Yoga Nidra has been the best way for me to calm my active mind. But now I think because my nervous system has been integrating this so much, I can easily just lie down in the pool chair or lie down on the grass and fall into that hypnagogic state. I might go into this 20-minute cat nap, and that is a nervous system reset. And I might even do that a couple times a day. So don't time it, just allow yourself to unwind with it. And I don't push and force myself to do anything, but it feels like if it flows, this might be time for me to record some more meditations. So keep your eyes peeled. Follow me on Insight Timer if you have that app. And if I add anything to my YouTube, I will add the link to this podcast RSS, because why not? Then you can find it more easily. But also, if you're meant to find it, you're going to find it, because that's how the universe aligns. You, my friend, are exactly where you need to be. There is no mistake in the universe. There is no wrong way to do something. Only, I would say, the old way, right? There's my throat chakra confirmation. Or, the way that your soul embodied self is guided to do it. And we're often in a ping pong match between what was that I call 3D versus 5D, right? The old way versus the heart-guided way. 5D is essentially heart-based living, soul-embodied living. So, again, I'm going to say the old me hustled and proved and performed. The embodied me relaxes, unwinds, and in that space receives divine abundance and gives from a full well. I allow my nervous system to reset. I integrate with this deep rest and recalibration. Again and again, I choose this. Again and again, I weave this. Again and again, I let the old collapse and the new spring rise. Again and again, my friends, we can allow the new spring to rise by resting, unwinding, and in that space, receiving the divine abundance of the universe. Yes, yes. We are in parasite panic no more. We are in giveaway no more. Hustle no more. We receive differently now. We allow our nervous systems to reset and integrate with this deep rest and recalibration. Because the old codes, the 3D codes, are hustle, improve, and perform, right? And here's what the dog medicine has reminded me. These dogs hanging out with me and these dogs in my dream. And it can be that simple. A dog in a room and everybody in this dream just drops their masks. It was like an energetic mask, not a physical mask. You could just feel everybody relax all of a sudden. They're like, oh my God, I don't have to like put on a mask and like be all egoic and pretend I'm so confident or this or that. I can just relax. Yes, the new code is rest, recalibrate, relax. Be in that full well, because look at those animals in your life, and if you have a dog or around dogs, look at how they look at you and they look up and they're happy and their tongue's hanging out. They're looking at you like, hey, I'm meeting you from love. You're a full well of love. So am I. That's it. That's clean abundance. That is honorable exchange, honorable giving of energy too. We are that. That is us. And I'm so grateful that I had that dream. And I'm so grateful that my soul was guided to say to that guy from California, hey, let's see each other in the quantum, because that was me. I didn't realize unconsciously also trying to say like, hey, like I'm going to show you the truth, my unconscious mind, because my conscious mind was like, oh, that's really cool. Yeah, we've been activating each other so much. And I thought it was energizing. And I didn't realize until after the fact that it was proving, and the message was really for him. Like, you don't have to prove yourself to Sarah, you don't stop proving yourself. And I guess there was a part of me that was doing that too by having to people please, because that's my proving self, the old code. I have to make you feel better right now, even though I don't want to say a fucking word to you. You know what I mean? Even though I think you're a jerk, and, it could be to that neighbor that just, tries to overtalk when you're just like out wanting to relax in the yard. Like, I'm not in the space to talk right now. You can just be flat out, or just don't respond. You know what I mean? We don't owe these people a damn thing. And oftentimes we do this with strangers. It's like, what are you putting a mask on for this stranger that you're never going to see again? Be authentic. Be like you would with a dog or a teenager and say, no, not right now. And just before I recorded this, I had my beautiful squash cake dessert thing. And the dog was looking at me with these begging eyes. And I literally looked at him and I said, boundaries, Jake. And he literally turned his head away. And I was like, wow, was that easy? All I had to say was boundaries. So there you go. Remember that one. There's a code for you. Sending you so much love, peace, and blessings for deep nervous system reset and recalibration. You are exactly where you need to be. Allow yourself to relax into it. That's all your soul wants you to do on this planet, in the here and now. And embody that fully with your whole being. I love you. Until next time, this is Sarah with the 5D codes, coming to you from the Catskills.